Welcome to the Embryo Adoption Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Mellinger. On this show, we explore the possibilities embryo adoption offers to families often struggling with infertility, though not always. Through insightful interviews and moving stories, we uncover the blessings of this unique path to parenthood. This podcast is brought to you by the National Embryo Donation Center, giving hope to those longing to grow their families. Now, let's get started. So, no fertility issues, a big family already. Why do embryo adoption? That is what my guests today, Travis and Kristen Hickman, are going to be answering. You are with the Embryo Adoption Podcast, brought to you by the National Embryo Donation Center. You can find out more about our work at embryodonation.org. And I'm your host, Mark Mellinger. So good to have you guys here. You went through a few years ago with us, but have a terrific story. Let's start here. How did you first learn about embryo adoption?
Your wife?
Her.
I was hoping you would give the real answer, because I think you're the only person who's been led to the NEDC, by my own immediate family. So let's go back a ways. We do have a little bit of a history.
Yes.
Little bit.
All the way back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, probably 20-ish years ago, right?
Golly, are we that old, Mark?
Well, I know I am. I don't know about you. I'm feeling it. And look, my hair was brown, I think, when yours was browner. When
mine was almost black.
Yeah.
Mine was almost black. We just had our company Christmas party last night, and we stayed till 12:30 last night. And it's a very stark reminder of how old we are when we had to get up to come in and work today. So probably was 20 years ago, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
It's hard to believe. Yeah, we were. So we went to the same church and both found ourselves teaching the same Sunday school class for a while, the college class, and then our families became friends after that. And we both have moved since then, obviously. And right, Kristen, it was you seeing Dana, my wife, a social media post from her. Was that how you found out about the NEDC?
She had posted something about your new job, and we had been talking about possibly doing foster care, possibly doing adoption. And I saw that, and it just hit me, I could carry my adopted child just like I did my biological children. And I don't know, that just kind of touched my heart in a special way. And I messaged her and I said, hey, I know that this is more focused for families who struggle with fertility, but could those of us who don't, could we potentially adopt an embryo? And she said, absolutely, and sent me more information, and we looked into it. And I don't know, one thing just led to another. I think it took a little bit more convincing for him. But I did feel like, okay, I have one more pregnancy in me. I think I could do it one more time. And yes, that was it. I could no more after that. But yeah, that's just how it started. Yeah.
Well,
thank goodness she convinced me. Because
thank goodness she convinced you.
Yeah, because for all the crazy things that I have done and made her do with me, now I have one thing that she made me do with her.
Yeah.
And there is a lot behind that statement. We don't have time to go into it. But knowing the Hickmans as I have now for a couple of decades, there is a lot of truth. Something's always happening. They've lived multiple places, and the tales of their lives are always entertaining, and sometimes would be tragic if they weren't so funny, or vice versa. So
they're tragic in the moment, and then they're humorous as you move away from them. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well put. Well, as you mentioned, and by the way, I love doing these interviews with couples who aren't infertile, because we do you don't have, that's not a pre-qualification to adopt embryos through the NEDC, and that's and we also had no history of infertility or anything. We're just here because of the pro-life and pro-adoption aspects, because we see these as God's tiniest image bearers, and these are vulnerable, marginalized lives in need of care, in need of having their sanctity and dignity protected, just like children who have already been born. So yes, we welcome couples who have a heart for this form of adoption and haven't had fertility issues. That's a blessing when we get them, and we do more and more. But yeah, you already had a lot of kids, I don't know that I mentioned.
Had 4. Let's easy on the a lot.
Well, in these days and times,
Yes, for the average family, we had a lot. It's not a lot for him coming from a family of 11 kids, but for the average family, 4 kids is big enough. Yes.
So so to you, this is a small family, Travis.
Yeah, I mean, with only having 6 children, I feel like I let my mother down. So
She did tell me on our wedding day, "Oh, Kristen, you're getting married younger than I did, and you're starting your family younger than I did. You could have more than I did." And I went, "Oh no, I don't know if I want 12 kids."
Yeah. I've seen people with 12 kids, or there are some who can do it well, and I do mean that. Most can't. So I think stopping short of that is probably, for most of us mere mortals, a good idea. We're not all the Hickman family.
Yeah, no.
Boy.
And even in the Hickman family, we're not all able to do that.
Correct.
Yeah, so many stories that I know. Well, what questions? And by the way, it's not unusual for the wife to lead the husband on this, to be the one whose heart is sort of captured by it, and then she has to persuade the husband a little bit. What questions did you two have to walk through to decide if embryo adoption was the right route for you?
You look back on it and you see God's hand in everything and how he controls everything. And Kristen had made mention of it. And so we had our 4 children, biological children, I guess, if you want to call them that, right? So we had our 4 biological children. And at that point in time, we made the decision that we felt that we were done having our own biological children, but we very much left it open to the idea that we would still have more children. We just looked into adopting and all of those type of things. And so as we started on that course, there was just a lot of things that lined up in our family, and whether you want to call them doors opening and doors closing, obviously we looked into the just the traditional adoption thing, and there were some roadblocks for us there. Obviously the financial side of that is a huge roadblock for a lot of people, which it was for us. And so we didn't really feel that God was calling us to pursue that. And then we looked into doing foster care and potentially adopting through the foster care system and stuff like that. And again, that was just like from a logistical standpoint. And there was a time when I think I was more like, let's do foster care, and she was more, let's do embryo adoption, right? And so we continued to look into both of them as we went. And again, I work in the car business. So from a logistical standpoint, at the time we were living just outside of Houston, and we would have had to go into downtown Houston twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we couldn't miss any times, and we had to be there at like 6 o'clock. And it was just, I wasn't going to be able to do it for my job. And so we're like, man, we just don't know if that's going to work. And so she kept on leaning on me about embryo adoption and, hey, what do you think about this? And so we looked into it, and it just kind of over time, with her being really adamant that that's what she felt, we had been called to do. and, you know, just all of the other things not really working. But at the same time, we knew we wanted to do some type of adoption and have, you know, a couple more children that way. It just kind of worked out where, you know, I guess maybe I was stubborn, but this was the only door that God allowed us, you know, to have the opportunity to do that. So I don't know when I said, okay, go ahead and call Mark. But at some point, and she'd already, you know, I think there was already like months of communication between you guys by the time I said, yeah, okay, let's talk to Mark. And she was like, oh, I have all the information here. What would you like to know?
Pulled out the packet, half filled out already.
Right. You mean let's talk to Mark some more, because there have been back channel
Actually, I
discussions.
just need your signature right here, and we can send it in.
Right. And that was sort of how it went. Describe the ups and downs of getting to, and by the you guys went through, if am I what was it, 2016, 2017, somewhere in that window?
Yeah, they just turned 5.
Yeah, they were,
Yeah.
it was,
Your girls just turned 5.
2017, 2018.
Okay, 27. So I was off by a year, but I knew it was a few years ago. Describe the ups and downs of getting to transfer day with the NEDC, because it's never, you know, like anything in life, it's never totally a smooth, straight path that you hope for it to be. You're going to have some roadblocks, obstacles, and things come up that you weren't expecting. Give people sort of an honest view of what your journey looked like once you were in the program and getting to transfer day.
I think just the taking all of the medications that I had to take, my emotions were a little bit more raw, a little bit more intense. I don't tend to handle medication well in general. I'm just more sensitive to the effects of it. And I think that was probably the hardest to deal with. Learning to give myself shots because he wasn't always around was a fear I didn't know I had to overcome, which I know people who are in the world of infertility deal with daily. And I guess getting a glimpse into that, as small as it was, just softened my heart so much to women who have to deal with that all the time. I think preparing the other kids, when we started the journey, there wasn't such a big gap in the ages of our kids. But by the time we actually got to transfer day, our baby was 6 or 7. So that's a big gap. And I think welcoming babies back into the family was a little bit more tricky than we had anticipated, just having that gap. I don't know. We had other issues going on too with his job at the time that was kind of up in the air, and we didn't know how that would affect our journey. And I guess that added a little bit of stress into everything too.
Wouldn't be the Hickmans without that.
Yeah.
No, it certainly wouldn't be. You have to throw in the minimal level of stress and drama. But you got there.
We did.
We got there. Yeah.
So, tell me about, well, first of all, is there anything that you would want to pass along? Anything you wish you had known going in? Obviously, you didn't know about that. So maybe that the shots and everything, and the emotional load, would be your answer to this. But was there anything else that you wish you would have known about the process of embryo adoption going in that you would want to let somebody know about now, somebody who's considering it?
I don't know.
I mean, full disclosure, Mark. Okay. I lost my job in the middle of the interview process. Didn't really live with her very much while she was pregnant with the twins.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know how we do things, right?
I mean, and yeah, I think if you can make it through, anybody can make it through.
She's pretty resilient. Yeah. So, and I think that put some unique strains on our situation. Um, I don't think the pregnancy that she had with the twins was probably the most difficult um pregnancy that she had. And I'm sure it was a combination of we were older and it was twins and but that it was pretty touch and go for a while, and it was difficult, and we've had these conversations, hey, if we look back on it, um but you keep on remembering why you made the decision to do it in the first place,
Yeah.
and you keep on reminding yourself that here's these two little girls that we have that are they're they are sisters, but they're nothing alike at all, right? And otherwise they could potentially still be sitting frozen somewhere, right? And never had the opportunity to experience all the things that they experienced, and all of the joy that they bring to our family and the craziness. We just got family pictures taken on Sunday, and I think our favorite picture is the one where me and all of the girls are in the picture and she's standing behind the photographer laughing, telling us the face that Liliana's making. And so everyone's cracking up, and it's like the pictures weren't really that great, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. But the one picture is hilarious because everyone's got these weird looks on our face, and they think it's hilarious. And you go, yeah, we would have never had that. Life would just be simple, and that's not fun.
No, simplicity. Who wants that? You have to throw in a layer
Nobody.
of complexity. Well,
Yeah.
tell me about Liliana and Genevieve, your two 5-year-olds from the NEDC. I mean, what else have they added to your life?
Less sleep.
Yeah.
Genevieve has energy for days and doesn't need much sleep. But
Genevieve Hickman. Okay. Remember that name, because if I can navigate her through 13 more years and get her to her 18th birthday, I fully believe that that girl can rule the world. I mean, she could be the president of the United States. She's smart as a whip. She's determined like no other. She is beautiful and stubborn and hard-headed, and we love her to death. But she tests us. She pushes the limits.
she does.
And she uses her sweet, beautiful, loving sister Liliana to experiment things, because she knows that Lily probably won't get in trouble, but she will. So Genevieve is, I mean, you want to talk about the life of the party and the spark in the family and the whole 9 yards. That's Genevieve, right? And then Lily has protected her little sister in so many different ways, right? So it wasn't complex enough for us to just adopt embryos, right? We had to take it to the next level and try to have a home birth.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
That resulted in an emergency trip to the hospital in the middle of birth.
Well, yeah, I carried them for 41 and a half weeks.
Yeah,
Oh,
42.
that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, trying to do the home birth, it was more, natural, just they're looking fine. Everything's looking good. So let's just let it go. The midwife came out and we tried to, get things moving along, because physically I was just done at that point. And, it turned into Genevieve's heart rate dropping with every contraction and calling 911 and rushed to the hospital. And every time that would happen, my contractions would stop. So by the time we got to the hospital, my contractions would stop and they're like, "Why are you here?" So it turned into this big ordeal, and we ended up having a C-section, and it came about that Genevieve's umbilical cord was short, but it was also wrapped around her neck.
Yeah.
And their placentas had fused,
Huh.
which wasn't showing on any of the ultrasounds that we had gotten, but Genevieve's placenta wasn't functioning correctly. So Liliana's placenta was giving her nutrients, and helping her survive, which in turn, Liliana was smaller at birth, because half of her nutrients were going to Genevieve. So it turned out to be a really big ordeal. And if I had had them naturally, everybody said Genevieve would not have survived. Well, Liliana, bless her heart, she has a massive head.
Yes.
And she basically was getting stuck. And so her head was blocking them from coming naturally. Which I didn't think after having 4 of my own Hickman babies that were larger, and
well,
Hickman's
yeah, you guys are
larger
not.
head.
It's not a family of, yeah, and I can say this being the little squirt that I've been my entire life, but you're not a family of small people.
Right.
True.
I didn't think that
True.
that would ever be an issue for me, but again,
Remember
God's
the day Mark
ways.
helped us move in Fort Wayne and we almost crushed him with a couch.
You almost crushed him with a couch.
I do, right? Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, never mind that one of your kids may not be here. I was almost not here because of the 2 of you.
Correct.
Well,
We've almost
Travis,
killed
really.
multiple people. We should probably just stop.
Yeah. But, God had a way of using that to keep Genevieve alive. And so Liliana started out helping her sister survive. And she's always had a very protective personality of Genevieve. And it's very sweet to see. They sleep in the same room, but right now they currently sleep even in the same bed together because
Sure.
they can't sleep without their twin. So the bond they have is just very precious to watch and to see. And they do look out for each other like
Very much. And it reciprocates because so Lily has type 1 diabetes. And so she got diagnosed with that
a year and a half
19
ago.
months ago or so. And so Genevieve has now turned into Lily's protector. Lily's just trying to figure out when she feels like her blood sugar is high or her blood sugar is low, so on and so forth. And so I'm not sure if it's just an excuse for Genevieve to get out of bed, but it's a pretty good one because mom and dad can't be upset when she comes downstairs and says, "Hey, Lily feels low." Which sometimes is just a ploy to get candy and get out of bed, but sometimes it's actually true. And so, the role has reversed from that where, now Genevieve is watching out for her sister, trying to, help her with her diabetes and everything.
That's beautiful. What a great window into how God has worked and shaped not only them, but I'm sure your entire family through this. You really see some of his sweetness in a tangible way in this. And I'm trying to remember. I can't remember how old is Shane, your oldest child right now?
Shane just turned 21.
Okay, so Shane's 21 now. So you've got the age range from 21 to 5. What do the older kids think of these twins who are, as you said, they're not, the age gap is bigger than it was with the 4 children that you had before embryo adoption?
So if you've ever had a pet for a long time and then introduced a new pet into the house, and the long-standing pet gets fairly territorial, there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of that. It was certainly, and I think Kristen alluded to this, there was kind of like this adjustment period, right? And I think the biggest adjustment and shift has come from Ashlyn, who was the baby of the family.
Right,
and
right.
He didn't do well with giving up the baby status, when she was what, 8 years old when the twins were born.
Yeah, she was probably the most hesitant going in. Um, a- Again, coming from the large family, extended family that we have, everybody loves babies. Everybody loves having them around. But she definitely enjoyed being the baby of our family.
Mhm.
And the beginning, it was, she wasn't too sure. But again, God does great things,
Mhm.
and she is actually the biggest help with them. She steps right in with Liliana's diabetes, and she'll give her shots, and she'll check, pack her bags, and she does a lot of. She's a big help for me. Yeah. So she and being the youngest of the four older, she'll probably have the best relationship with them because she'll be in the house with them the longest. So that has been fun to watch too, just her grow and pass the torch from
Yeah.
being the baby of the family onto them and just become a great big sister.
Mhm. Yeah. And just the relationships they have with all of them. I mean, he's married. He, doesn't live with us anymore. He lives down around the corner, and he's a homebody, so he doesn't like coming by the house, you know. But when he does come over, they'll run to see him. He and I will walk in. He works with me, so he and I will walk in sometimes together. They run right past me, forget dad, they want to see bubbies.
Yeah.
So
Liliana, especially, she's turned into quite the little gamer. So she loves when Shane comes over, and that's the first thing she says is, Shane, let's go play video games. Let's go play Mario Kart. I mean, that's always been a big thing in our house. So
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, and like Mario Kart is still, so it's still around. Like it's not passe.
it is. It has stood the test of time, Mark.
I always, have to do these interviews, making the disclaimer, and I haven't done it yet today. So I'm glad that you brought this up. That I checked out of pop culture about 25 years ago. So I really don't know who does what, or is singing what, or dating whom. Or even what video games they're playing these days. In fact, I'm not really even sure I have children of my own. That's how checked out of pop culture I am these days. Or maybe I just don't spend enough time with them. Maybe I was just a bad father. That's always possible. So I'm interested in your kids. Your youngest are at a really interesting age, and I think this is going to be helpful for other embryo adoption families. At that 5-year-old stage, how do you talk with them about how they came into this world?
So they know a little bit about their story. They know that they're adopted, but I don't think that what that means has really meant, like, they've comprehended what does adoption mean. We do have a book that you guys recommended. Trying to think of the name of
Is it
it.
the Chosen and Loved book?
We do have that one, but there's another one that
I'm never around.
I know. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Don't look at it. Yeah.
I think it's like about peas in the pod or something.
Yeah. The P that was me. I think that's it.
Something, yes, something
like that.
Okay, so my older girls.
It won a Pulitzer. I mean, how could you forget the title?
Well, okay, so my older girls read it to them before that goes into more of the scientific terms. And so the twins were going around the sperm and the egg, and I thought, oh my gosh, I could just see us at the grocery store, and they're talking about the sperm and the egg, and people are going to think weird things about our family. So they are learning about it, but they're not necessarily comprehending what it means yet. It's always been a little tricky for me because a lot of the embryo adoption books do deal with infertility, and that's something that we didn't struggle with. So it's not mommy and daddy wanted a baby so bad and they couldn't have one, and so they go to a doctor. It's a little different. So I try and just say, we had our own and we were looking to have others, and we went to a doctor and they had frozen babies, and we wanted to give those babies a chance to live. They do know that they were frozen.
Okay, they know they were frozen. I wondered about
They
that.
know they were frozen. I actually mentioned doing the podcast talking about when they were frozen, and Genevieve looked at me and said, "We're not going to be frozen again, are we?" And I said, "No, no, you're done being
Yeah.
frozen."
Is that an option?
Hey, what did you say?
I said, is that an option? Because
Yeah.
Genevieve, some days to freeze her for just a couple hours would be.
Yeah, we'll send Dr. Keenan down with the little helmet and the Mr. Freeze gun, and yeah. Oh boy, that could be a great revenue stream. Thanks, Travis. What a genius idea.
You've always been an entrepreneur, Mark.
Yeah. So this will be. I mean, how do you envision it? I guess it's like unpacking anything for a child. I think it would be this way with it is this way with salvation. They understand different nuances of it the longer they go, and you just go with them, right? You follow.
Yeah, and I it's great that you bring that up, because I think there are so many similarities, right, between adopting an embryo and salvation, and so many ways to link that together. That as they get a little bit older and, they start experiencing things in church, and, even, taking communion, right? I mean, they'll ask, because, in our church, we all walk up and, get the elements, bring it back to our seat, and we take it, and we bring the twins with us, right? But we don't let them have any of it yet. And so they start asking questions about that. And so there's so many things that can tie embryo adoption and salvation, right, into that picture of unconditional love that Christ has for us. But I think it's, we've had these conversations, right? Like at some point in time, it's going to become their story, and mom and dad have to fade into the background, because we haven't gotten as many questions as we thought we were going to get, because, the twins are, they don't look like me at all. They're very small, towhead blonde,
Right.
So we thought maybe we would get a little bit more of that, but like transitioning that to, hey, it's their story and they can tell it how and when they want to, and how do we navigate that as people talk and ask questions, and inevitably things come up. I just had a conversation about the twins the other day at work, and the guys sitting at the car dealership, what, hold on, what happened? Guys, we're at work. We don't have time for this right now.
Yeah, it's a long story.
The long story, but I think that's where, and she's super sensitive to these kind of things.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm probably not nearly as, but
no, you would talk to a potato if somebody put it on the table.
Yeah, and he'll tell everybody, "Oh, we adopted them as embryos." Whereas I do say, if they do ask, I do say, well, they're adopted, but I won't necessarily say how we adopt them, because we've made enough moves that we're not living with the same people that we did when I was pregnant with them. So to say they're adopted, people just take it like, oh, okay, they're adopted. Yeah. And I think families today look so different. I think a lot of people assume it was just a blended family situation that we had. I don't know. The 4 older ones, I think, are such a huge mix of both of our features that neither one of us can deny them. But I do think as the twins get older, you can definitely see their physical features are different from both of us and from the other 4. But their personalities, I think, fit right in with the family. They don't. Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
They can hold their own with all the Hickmans. So
we catch ourselves saying, "Oh, you got that from," and we're like, "Oh, not really."
Not really.
Yeah,
but
you learned that from.
Right. You learned it. I'm glad to hear that they're genuine Hickmans. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, they've taken the mantra well.
It was so good catching up with you two, Travis and Kristen. I love it. Fort Wayne, Indiana, at North Park Community Church was a long time ago now for all of us. But I love how God brought our paths together again through embryo adoption here in Tennessee, and again for this podcast. It has been terrific. So thank you two for the time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you having us.
If you want more information about the National Embryo Donation Center, just go to embryodonation.org. Again, that's embryodonation.org. I'm Mark Mellinger. This has been the Embryo Adoption Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the Embryo Adoption Podcast. I hope you enjoyed learning more about this life-changing option for building a family. Hey, if you or someone you know could benefit from embryo adoption or donation, visit embryodonation.org to get started or just to find out more. Again, that's embryodonation.org. And don't forget to spread the word, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast app. Join me next time as we continue sharing inspirational stories of the embryo adoption journey. And until then, take care.